If you've read my book, Cracking the Rich Code, you know it is chock full of fantastic advice from top thought leaders and super successful entrepreneurs from around the world. How would you like to be a member of an exclusive community that provides that same how to content from those same leaders? What if you were able to attend member only live events and interact with them? I'd like to invite you to join the Rich Code Club. It will change the way you think about yourself, your money, and your life. It's the only social media platform purely focused on helping you grow. Join the Rich Code Club today for free by clicking on the link in the show notes. Welcome to the Communication 24/7 podcast, where we communicate about how we communicate. I'm your host, Jennifer Furlong. As you know, with Communication 24/7, the reason I call it Communication 24/7 is because it never ends. And we have all these different areas of life that, as we know, communication has a profound impact. So it's not just about our professional relationships, it's about our personal relationships as well. And so I have Wade Bergner with me. Wade is an amazing children's author, and his book, The Bird Ride, I have right here. And we're going to talk about his book. We're going to talk about his experiences. We're going to talk about, connect it to communication and what are some lessons that we can take away from this so that hopefully we can learn how to be more effective in communicating with our children and with our families. So, Wade, thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's great to be here with you today and be able to share some of the things that I'm passionate about. And one of them is writing children's books, and feels great to be able to offer something and some of the life experiences through children's stories.
I'm really excited to talk with you about this. You say that one of your experiences in the past was that you had been diagnosed with a reading disability. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So take me through that journey. How old were you? What was that like for you? How did that impact your desire to read and to, just kind of take in information in that way? Take me back to that time and what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it would have been like in second grade. I suppose I was maybe 7, 8 years old or somewhere in that area. And I just never took to, couldn't find books that I liked. Just as much as teachers tried to help, I just struggled with it. And it was difficult to retain what I had read when I did read something. And it made me very insecure in the classroom, and it's put me in separate classes, and those are things as a young child sometimes that can be challenging. And so I was a different person. My classmates always said I was a different person out in the playground than I was in the classroom, because I'd freeze up. You could ask my name and I'd have a hard time even speaking up. Or that was a challenge that was there for a reason for me. And I think that's a good way to look at things and be able to share that, in knowing that even if there's some challenges in front of you and you're wondering about your self-worth, it's there, each and every one of us. It's an innate gift that we have, and when it reveals itself, it may be many years down the road, but to know that that's there is important. And I like to be able to bring that to children and families, and know that despite a shortcoming in one area, there's a strength there, and it will reveal itself if you don't bury yourself in the doubt.
One of the things that you had mentioned, when you're a child and you have difficulty reading, it can have a profound impact on your sense of self-esteem and your sense of belonging. And I really feel that. And that's one of the reasons why I was excited to talk with you today, because I know that there are so many kids who have had that exact same experience. You know, my son was one of those children. I remember it broke my heart. He came home, and I think it was around second grade. We were still living up in Virginia at the time. And I remember he went to bed crying, and I asked him what was wrong. And he said something about he just hated being stupid. And it ripped my heart out of my chest. And so we had a long conversation about that, you know, like, what do you mean? And, you know, because the reading and the writing didn't just come as natural, you know, or as easy to him as it, you know, did to some of the other kids. So I know that there are a ton of parents out there who will, you know, at some point listen to this. And that's one of the reasons why with this conversation, I want to just give those parents some type of hope, or, you know, some sense of what are some things that they can do to help that child, that they know that they are struggling with reading comprehension and feeling a little bit different, you know, because of that. So how did you transition? Because I know a lot of kids, when they have that experience, they are just absolutely resistant to picking up a book. You know, they aren't known to become writers. You know, a lot of times they might go into math or engineering or, you know, something like that. So what happened? How did that shift happen for you?
For me, I was very fortunate, and that's what I want to emphasize too, is that allow, don't force them to find things, expose them to many, many things. And if they
Mm,
light up, pay attention to that and allow them the
mm,
opportunity, even if it's something that you have no interest in, allow them that opportunity to explore that. And for me, yeah, just I loved anything to do with sports or balls, and and so I liked playing those games. And one of the greatest gifts that ever happened, though, is when I was struggling with the fact that I had a hard time even remembering the plays in football, and
mm,
something I loved. But a coach that came into my math class, I was asked to stay after class, and I thought something was wrong. I thought, oh, great, now I have math problems. But it was the track coach, and he revealed to me that I had in gym class ran one of the fastest mile times that the school had, and asked me to come out, and so I went out, and I was able to thrive and build my confidence in that area, and that allowed me to do and open the doors for me confidence in other areas of my life. So uh, those little nuggets and those people that step in like that, that build that self-worth and belief,
mhm.
they can go a long way.
What advice would you have, you know, coming from your perspective and knowing what it felt like to have that coach recognize that there was something special and that there was something you were really good at, and to have that sense of encouragement coming from, you know, an adult? What advice would you have for teachers? You know, if you're a teacher in the classroom, or um, you know, you have a paraprofessional, maybe you're not in the classroom all the time, but you go in and out, and you recognize that there might be a child in there who is struggling. What would you say to them? What kind of advice would you give them on how they could help?
Wow, teachers are so special. I mean, I was fortunate enough to spend the last few years doing a number of different things, but one of them is a teacher's aide and just helping out, and what they do and how you know, bring so much to families that maybe don't have the positive environment.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
but you continue to do that. Yeah, the statistics, I think you shared it on the website there about
Mhm.
if a child has heard over 150,000 times words that are bringing them down in comparison to
Mhm.
2,000 words, and it just digs a hole, and that's why
Mhm.
I have to believe that for adults we sometimes get ourselves in a bad situation where it's hard to dig out because you weren't finding the positivities or being told the things that you needed to be told or found the little nugget.
Yeah. No, you bring about a really important point, specifically with communication. Language, the words that we choose to use are so incredibly important. And when we're talking about children and how impressionable they are, and it really is amazing that statistic that you share on your website, the differences between hundreds of thousands of words, and phrases that tend to be negative or have a negative connotation versus the handful of words or phrases that we use that have that positive type of connotation. For a child, it really emphasizes the importance of how intentional we really need to be when we're having conversations with our children. Give me some examples of, since you mentioned that you've had the privilege of being a teacher's aide, so you know how hard of a job that is to work with kids on a day-to-day basis. You know how challenging children can be. What are some things that you have learned as far as communication directly with children? Like, let's say there's that one child, and we all know there's always going to be at least that one child in the classroom where they are going to take you to the limit, right? They're going to push those boundaries. What have you done? Because I know you've probably given this a lot of thought. Okay, what can I do so I don't crush this child's sense of self-worth and self-esteem? Like how do you have conversations with those type of children that I think really at the end of the day they're the ones who probably need the most positive communication.
Yeah, it's tough. The
Mm-hmm.
classroom management wasn't my strength, and that's for sure. That's something that really what I did find on some of the times when I was able to work with some of the kids that had to be pulled out of class, and when I was going through my reading challenges, I was put with those group of kids, so I have a little bit of understanding of what it's like, and rather than try to force them, allow them to expose a little bit about themselves or what makes them feel good or makes them light up, and allow them in that, because then you build that trust with them. That's what I started to feel. It's that then they were allowing me in once they saw that I was accepting of them. And that's really what I would love these children's books, these read-along children's books to do, is create that portal for parents and children to sit down and open up that time where you can talk about things that sometimes we just don't openly talk about because we as parents are so busy with running. And then we take that little bit of time where you're just with that child fully present. And that's a special thing. And I can't think of a more rewarding thing that I could be involved in if I can do some things like that.
One of the things that I loved about this book is I opened it up and there's this beautiful little blue feather in it. I was like, that's brilliant. I absolutely love that. I used it as a little bookmark because as I was going through the pages, there was this one section that it really hit me hard. Wade, I'm going to tell you, it really hit me hard. I just want to read this really quickly, and then I want you to just share, where did this part come from? What was the inspiration? So for those of you who don't know, the background is this little boy is in the backyard and he's playing, and then this little bird comes into the backyard, this little blue bird. They share something. They're able to connect. And then suddenly this little boy finds himself whisked away and he's able to fly with this bird, and he's able to have that bird's eye view of everything that's going on. And as he's flying around, he is noticing things that if you're down in the weeds, you otherwise would never notice. And I think that's one of the brilliant things about this book. But here's the passage. So he's flying around with this bird, and it says here, All right. Piercing the clouds with my new bird's eye view, I noticed a lady down below who was clearly angry about something. Being so high up in the air, she was only a small speck in my eye, yet there was something recognizably wrong. A cloud of darkness and dull color surrounded her. I found myself wishing I could loosen her burden and share this lightness that I was now feeling. This is the part that got me. She was caught in the world of repeating the low level thoughts that she'd learned throughout her life. I wished she could see, hear, and know that she could heal herself. The little act of choosing a different, more pleasant thought could and would change her world. But without words, the bird knew what I was feeling and made it clear that I was only to observe today. So that entire paragraph, I loved it. But that one particular section, if I could loosen her burden and if she could just, the low level thoughts and wishing that she could see and hear and know that she could heal herself. Take me through that passage because I thought that was incredibly beautiful, and I read through it several times. I was like, wow, that is, I can't tell you how much I loved that. So where is that coming from? And, just say a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks. That makes me feel really good. But that's really Louise Hayes. Those are the books that I've read over the past 15, 20 years. They're coming out in this book. The Wayne Dwyer is an inspiration to me, and just the way you show the words you feed yourself on a day in, day out basis and what you pay attention to. It all matters. It all makes a great deal of difference in how you go about your day and the people around you and the energies that you send out. And it's really, really that message. And one of the things that I've started to do over the last few years is affirmations, having these things around, and I also really pay attention to where I do spend time, and if I'm around environments that just don't feel right, I really put myself away or push myself away from them to the best of my ability when I can. But yeah, we all have people and things we have to deal with that. Just have to learn to manage them, and doing it in small bite sizes is how I like to look at it and do it.
You bring up a very important point. As adults, when we think about what are the things that we seek out, and are we seeking out positive experiences? Are we seeking out experiences that are going to help us learn and grow? Are we seeking out people who will help lift us up, who are also positive, who are interested in improving themselves as well as learning and growing? Or are we choosing to surround ourselves in negativity or surround ourselves with people who are not necessarily interested in learning and growing and cheerleading you? Sometimes you find yourself with people, you're struggling and you're trying to make yourself better, but if you feel like they're pulling you down or they're not supporting you in what you're wanting to do, then that takes a lot of soul searching right there. There's some decisions that have to be made, and that's why I love also in your book, because unfortunately for children, they don't always have that choice. Sometimes, like you mentioned earlier, some of these children are growing up in families where at best they might be neglected, where they're just completely ignored. At worst, there could be a lot of verbal, maybe even physical abuse that happens, at home. And so the discussion questions that you have in the book, I really love that you have discussion questions. So what are you hoping, what kind of influence, I guess, or change are you hoping to be able to have in families that, maybe the parents are struggling to figure out how to have a conversation with their child? Take me through those discussion questions and what you're hoping to achieve with those.
Yeah, well, each book that I have is going to have a different theme, but they're all around emotions in some way, shape, or
Okay.
form. And that particular book, first one, the opportunity to step aside and look at things differently, or pause, breathe, and not react right away, or to have your own bird. That one of those questions in there is about choosing your own bird, whatever that is, and hopping on that when things are challenging. We're always going to have challenges, and they're there for us to learn from. But that doesn't make it easy. It doesn't make it fun. But it's to be able to have a tool like that to allow yourself to lift above and see yourself as a speck or a part of something much, much bigger than just who you think you are, and allow that bird to take you up there. That was one of the questions that I liked doing, but just that opportunity to open up a conversation, and like I said earlier, not push it under the rug. Talk about it, and be, as a parent, also not share things with their children. They know you're upset. They know you're stressed. Be open about it. Just say, well, this is what's going on. Good for you, good for them. Everyone wins in that, because then they learn that, okay, that's part of life. It's part of life. My mom, my dad deal with it, but at least we talk about it.
Yeah. That's why I think it's brilliant that you include discussion questions at the end of the book, because I know that there are probably a lot of adults out there who we don't know how to talk to kids, and sometimes you just need that little prompt. How do I start a discussion with this child, about these heavy topics? I want to make sure that I can influence them in a way that I'm having a positive influence on their self-esteem or their, sense of self-worth. And that's a big, heavy kind of thing to try to accomplish. And so you providing these discussion questions, for example, the first one, do you feel differently around your pet or other animals? What does it feel like and why do you think you feel that way? As an adult, just think about it for a moment. Let's just stop for a moment. Even as an adult, do I feel differently around my pet or other animals? And what does it feel like and why do you feel that way? Yes, the answer is, yeah, I do feel different. And so what a brilliant way to even have, whether you're a teacher or you're the parent or any type of adult who works with kids. And to be honest with you, even if you just want to have a conversation with somebody else because you're feeling, there's something wrong. What does it feel like and why do you feel that way? Yeah, I feel loved when I'm surrounded by my puppies, right? And like you say in the book, it's unconditional. It's that unconditional love. And no matter how I'm feeling or whether I accomplished my tasks that day or whether I had a really horrible day, it doesn't even matter to them. They're just happy to be around me, right? And that kind of feeling is infectious. You start feeling better instantly. And the research does show, right? You can look it up. Yeah. Research does show being around pets and, actively engage with them actually brings your blood pressure down, your stress levels down, everything. So I love that you have these discussion questions to help guide these types of conversations, because I think so many of us actually need that type of help to figure out how to have these conversations. Imagine your favorite online dating app, but instead of using it for finding dates, you are booking podcasting interviews. Podmatch uses similar technology to match the ideal podcast host with the ideal podcast guest for interviews. I know it works because that's how I get so many awesome guests for my show. I used to spend hours scouring my social media channels, hoping to be able to find just one reliable guest for my show. Now I simply log into Podmatch and let the program do all the work. It really is just that easy. And if you are a podcaster looking for compatible guests, or you are a guest looking to be on a reputable podcast, sign up for Podmatch today by clicking on the link in the show notes. You had mentioned that you have been influenced by a lot of authors who have impacted you. Do you mind sharing some of your favorite authors, maybe a couple of your favorite books that helped take you from that child who, had um, that difficulty with reading comprehension, and now to today, like you're an author. So take me through some of the things that you have read that have had an impact on you.
Yeah, I wish I had that. Just looked an extensive list, but it is
Yeah.
Wayne Dwyer. Wayne Dwyer is right up there. And another one, and then Louise Hayes. I also like James Van Prague. I think there's some great messages in my next book. Really leans into that area of our connection that goes beyond this physical time that we have. But Robert Holden is another one that I really have gone to some of his workshops, and
Mm-hmm.
just amazing guy. Just so grounded, and just the messages about what really matters and how to just be yourself, but in the process of doing so, you can allow
Yeah.
others to be themselves, and that so much positivity and so many good things can come when you let down your guard and just be and accept the strengths and the weaknesses that you do have. Those questions, I hope that's my contribution, because there's so many things
Yeah.
that I'm weak in. Like, if you ask me to fix something around the house, good luck with that. I'm not your guy. But if I can help other people by prompting questions that maybe can help their children.
I think that's fantastic. When did you realize that you had this shift? Because if you had, reading comprehension difficulties and you had a reading disability when you were younger, at some point, because now you're talking about there's so many authors and books that you have been able to read that you feel have been very helpful to you. Can you pinpoint a moment where that shift occurred for you and you were like, you know what? I'm going to pick up this book and I'm going to try. I want to read this, because I think that's the struggle. How do you find that one book that is the catalyst to encourage you to continue to seek out more and more books to read? Because that's a hard thing when, you have reading difficulties, and
I,
be
I
really discouraging.
yeah, I do remember going. My mom sent me to like not summer school, but I was one-on-one where a teacher for 2 summers would help me read, and I'd go in, and she'd have different things, and she would reward me with football and baseball cards if I would do or read certain things, and she gave me a football book, and I love football, so I just still remember what it felt like having that. So I would read a little bit of sports book, and that was a starting point. I think over time, yeah, like I said, the athletics allowed me to build confidence, and uh, enabled me to go to college, and then to see that if I applied myself enough and put the extra time, and I could do that. But
Mhm.
yeah, there was a lot of life lessons in there that brought me to those type of books that you references. Challenges
Yeah.
where, am I happy doing what I'm doing? And I tried to figure out what is it that makes me happy, uh, not just filling me up to make me feel like I'm worth something now. Really,
Yeah.
what's going on here? So yeah, I would take in my car and listen to these CDs of authors speaking about what they're writing about, and read books, and so then yeah, it just made me step away and discover some areas that were of interest, and that I felt more comfortable, or more
Mhm.
like, this is where, this is the area I belong. If it's exactly where it is yet, I don't know, but it feels right.
That was actually a really brilliant move by that one teacher of yours. You said that, because you enjoyed sports so much and that's what interested you. And so finding books that are connected to sports. And then you said that she gave you baseball cards as
Yes.
as a reward for, I guess, if you read a book? Like, did she give them to you for every book you would read, or
I think if I read,
different milestones?
yeah, a book or read a certain amount of time, as long as as long as I was moving in the right direction. So
Yeah.
little rewards, and that, yeah, that was exciting. I was looking forward to going to visit her, and even though that was an area I struggled with, at least she was a nice person, and she also really
Yeah.
understood me. She
Yeah.
understood me, and that there's that unconditional type of love showing up in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to point something out. This is very, very important here. If you're listening and you don't have the advantage of seeing the video, I want to describe for you what just happened with Wade when he started talking about being allowed to read a book that was connected to sports. And it was something that he enjoyed and it was something he could connect to. And the teacher encouraged that. And that, she met him where he was. His entire face lit up. You can tell like he felt good about that moment. So think about that with these young children who are struggling with reading comprehension. Think about the looks on their faces and how negative they feel about themselves and how negative they feel about the situation. Contrast that with what we just heard right here. And Wade, your face, it lit up when you started thinking about that moment. I think that's really important for anybody who's listening to really, I think that's an important takeaway, trying to find out what are they interested in, what makes them happy, and then let them read books that are connected to that. It's okay if it's not Shakespeare to read, and maybe one day they will be able to tackle that. But I think just having that moment, taking that time, that was just an incredible thing I just witnessed with you talking about that. I wanted to point that out, to people.
Yeah,
I think that's an
cool.
important thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, there's some special people that make a great deal of difference in my life, and I'm sure that's the case. I had wonderful parents, but sometimes you teachers and coaches from outside, it means a little bit more because it's
Yeah.
not, of course, your children, uh, you're going to tell them certain things, but when you hear it from
Right.
someone that from outside, that they can really make a difference. And yeah, I know
Yeah.
that particular teacher really did make a profound difference.
Wow. That's beautiful. I've heard some people say, you know what? If they're into comic books, let them read the comic books. If they're into manga, let them read the manga, whatever it is. Do you agree with that?
Yes, that's another area. Then I did get into reading comic books
Okay.
shortly after that period of time of being introduced to that. So
Yeah.
that was the beginning of
Yeah.
that. And but yeah, if you could meet them where they're at, I think that's a really good message. Meet them where they're at and encourage them. Pay attention
Hmm.
to not just verbal but visual. Like you said, you saw something just in our
Yeah.
interaction here.
Yeah. So I want to share with you a couple of the comments that are coming in. Nick on LinkedIn said, this interview is amazing. Wade is a great author and wonderful humanitarian. Thank you both for so much for the insight and inspiration. Kristen says she's loving this conversation. Lorinda, I know she works in the grief space, so I'm sure that she has, seen a lot with children who are coming from circumstances that aren't exactly the happiest of circumstances. And a couple of questions that she has: what questions or statements do you have for grieving children? And then she followed it up with, grieving children don't talk, they just sit there. What would you say to them?
I would love to speak with. Yes, this book is called The Mirror Box, and it discusses just that. It's an opportunity to learn and to uh, grieve as you should, but at the same time know that your emotions are separate from you, who you are. And so you're taking a brief moment to put these emotions into the box so you can allow yourself that separation. You
Mm,
have to grieve, but there's that opportunity to learn and still know that there's a connection and a very, very special connection that just goes way beyond us physically here. And that'll be really exciting. That comes out in January 11th, and it's really at its final stages. I've got the illustrations are.
And what's the name of it again?
It's called The Mirror Box.
The Mirror Box. All right. So we're going to wait for that. We might have to have another conversation when that comes out, because it sounds like that might be something that will be really helpful, especially with what Lorinda's talking about with grieving children and how they don't talk. It could be a way to get them to begin expressing their feelings and open a conversation. All right. And you said that comes out in January?
Yep. January 11th. Right now it's a tentative date, but it'll be out then. And I'll have discussion whether there'll be an activity. I've gone back and forth about different activities, but I think I pinned down just the right one to be able to, again, bring the children and the family through an activity at the end that hopefully opens a little space, in a way that's not always easy to bring to. But it's a different book. I continue to look for ways, and I eventually will be able to bring directly to schools, but I think I'll probably be bringing this to senior centers and maybe funeral directors or different ways to get it in front of the right people, and offering maybe even that for families that as people pass, and so kids have this story to ponder and to be able to lean into as they go through this grieving.
For anyone who feels like they have a children's book inside them, like they're watching this or they're listening to this and they're becoming inspired because they can see how clearly your past experiences, what you went through as a child and now growing up, and you have this incredibly giving heart and you just want to be of service and just help families and teachers, anyone who works with children. You just want to be able to have a positive impact on those relationships. What kind of advice would you have for someone who they feel like, what, I think I have a story inside me as well? Like, what would you say to encourage them to get that story out? Like, what was it for you that finally happened where, like, I think I can actually do this thing?
The big thing I think that pushed me over is when I lost a dear friend to suicide, and and a few other things that were happening, but I needed to release some of these frustrations and confusion, and I started writing, and how I noticed how good I was feeling just writing, and the story started to come out, and I think if I were to maybe give some words of wisdom, is just go for it. Just start writing and put it down and do it again. Just really try to craft it on your own, but it depends on what your goals are. If you want to just do it for your family, the opportunities to publish your own book are just, it's not that complicated. But to write a real, true children's book that you want to impact lives, this next one I spent a lot of time and money and energy learning about what it takes to make and create a children's book that can be impactful and to engage them and make it a page turner, because you have less than 100 or less than 1,000 words typically. You need to make every one of them count and make them engaged with the pictures and the words. So I went through a training program called ML Publishing, Marion Laundry Publishing, and she has a very great setup where you can learn about all the different pieces that you need to go through to learn about how to create a children's book that can impact lives in this way. So I feel very fortunate that I found that to work with and to learn from.
I had no idea that children's books are typically less than 1,000 words.
Children's picture books, it's even less. It's like somewhere between that 800 to 1,000 words. So I would never thought that this is something that I'd be that excited about, but boy, it's really fun to just dive in and learn from people and that have been in this industry so long, and they focus exclusively on children's books. And that's really what I wanted to learn. It's like, okay, there's a difference between writing a book and there's writing a children's book. So I thought, well, let's learn everything I can. And Sharon Jennings is a editor, and she writes the Franklin's children's books, the turtle books. So I've got to learn and sit and spend some time.
I remember Franklin.
Learning from some of the people that really are great at what they do. So.
You're right. Every word counts. When you're so limited with, you think about attention spans, it makes sense, right? I mean, these are children's books. You've got to consider the attention spans, and you want to make sure that they are as impactful as possible with, with the limited amount of words that you can use. What has been, I guess, one incredibly surprising thing for you, becoming a children's author? Is there anything that has happened that just has surprised you about this whole process of becoming a children's author?
Well, it's not as easy as I thought. It's not as I didn't think it was going to be easy, but it's hard to make it profitable, and you need to look at it in a very different way than when I maybe approached it. But linking different things to it are another option. But yeah, I guess just there's so many little things, and also working with Amazon is a challenge, and what percentage they take and you get back is pretty minimal. So I can't really pin down anything in particular.
Well, no, I think that's an important point. A lot of people might go into this industry. You have somebody who thinks, oh, I'm just going to write some children's books. And they just think they're going to put some words down on a piece of paper and off it goes. But you bring up an important point in that there is the business side of things, and that may not necessarily be an easy thing to learn. And that would be surprising. I don't think, people like yourself, you have an important point, important story you want to share. You're trying to have a positive impact. That's really not the thing that's on your mind at the moment, thinking about the business end of things and how truly difficult it is to publish a book, and probably to publish a book that's specifically a children's book.
I guess how challenging it is to find a publisher or a publisher that fits, and there's a lot of things to learn. Just to allow yourself that time to learn and to have a plan or an idea of you're going to set aside this amount of time to do, and if it's writing or whatever it is in life, I love to express that with people, is that make time for those things that do light you up, whatever that might be. It doesn't have to be anybody but you cares about, but just do it because it's good for you. It fills you up, and everybody else around you benefits because you're filled up as well.
Yeah, it reminds me of something someone said to me the other day, that you spend time on the things that you value. And I was like, wow, yeah, that really does get you thinking in terms of how you're spending your time. And so if you're someone out there who you feel like you have an important story, you want to make an impact, you want to get that story down, I think Wade's right. You just got to be able to sit down and do it. Just get it out, and don't worry about it being perfect. Just get the story out. Right? Just write. And that's hard. We think we end up writing, and then I know for me, I'll write down something and then I immediately begin editing it because I don't think it's the right sentence. And that's not writing. We have to kind of rewire our brains, to what writing actually is. We'll worry about the specifics and making it look nice and, sound nice later. Just get the content down on paper. I do want to bring up that you have 15% of all of your books, the proceeds are going to Together We Rise. Can you say just a little bit about what Together We Rise, what that organization is, and why did you choose to send some of your book proceeds to them?
Yeah, Together We Rise is a nonprofit children's foster children's organization, and I thought with emotional challenges the challenges that they go through of self-doubt and not having parents and just the challenges that they're confronted with. I think that these books all are in alignment with what they're about. So I thought if I can give something back to that group, that'd be wonderful. So hopefully at some point I can donate these books to as many foster care children, and it'll be able to serve them in that way. So
that's amazing. I think that's so incredibly wonderful, and I think it's a testament to where your heart is, and it just shows what type of an incredibly giving human being that you are. And I just absolutely love that. Thank you for writing the story, writing your books, and thank you for the direction that you're taking them. And you just want to make sure that you can help as many children as possible learn that their inability to, read as effectively as anybody else, or their inability to maybe, I don't know, talk to other children as effectively, or if things don't come as easy to them as it seems like it might come as easy, to other people, that doesn't say anything about who they are, as a person, that they do matter, and to help, with the self-esteem and their sense of, just self-worth. So I think that's amazing. Wade, how do we get in touch with you, or how do we find your books and all that stuff?
Yeah, well, I have a website, and it's bergnerbooks.com. So you can go there. Any opportunities to be able to share my message with people that are aligned with any of the work that I do, love to speak or spend time with them, here online or in person, or make visits to children at different locations, or like I said, senior centers. I'm hoping to be able to connect seniors with children, because I think there's an amazing energy there that can be brought together. And so
I can just see it. Yeah. I mean, imagine bringing in little kids and having to a senior center and having them read The Bird Ride to these kids, and having think about the conversations that they could have.
Yeah, I want the elderly to be able to share their stories or what they've learned.
That is fantastic. All right. So the name of the book is The Bird Ride. I will make sure that your website is in the show notes, so anyone who is interested can easily find you. Once again, thank you so much, Wade, for being a guest on the show and for sharing your story, and just for being an inspiration, not only to children, but to other adults as well. I don't know if you realize how much of an inspiration you are to adults. And I think anybody having a conversation with you can learn so much from you.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. Yeah, appreciate it. It's been great. And I hope we can speak again, and we'll have more stories to tell.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. I hope this was a great start to your Monday. If you were not having a good Monday, I hope this helped lift the spirits just a little bit. It did for me. And everyone, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and a review.